All right, all right. You guys are in the chat. Let me know. See where everybody is. You guys are in the chat. Let me know. See where everybody is. I guess just working through a couple things. Want to make sure that you're able to see everything that I'm seeing as I'm just setting this up here. All right, obviously a little bit of a delay from what I have going on the stream. So if you guys can hear me and see everything that I'm doing, give a little comment, thumbs up. But really, I just wanted to recap a little bit from the videos that I did yesterday with obviously this pretty large correction that we have going on down here. Really, pretty nice girthy red candle moving to the downside. Let's see, I might try and bring this up a smidge more. All right, so let's see what we got here. All right, so obviously from the video that I had yesterday, I was looking for another move up to the upside here on ETH. So I'm going to start with ETH and I'll take a quick look at some Bitcoin here. But was really looking at the move for this resistance zone here that we had at 251 with a move down potentially as a way forward for another leg up for really turning this whole thing into a impulsive move to get to a further upside target. Obviously, that didn't happen. We did get a move. I was looking for 256. We got another move up, really 253, 254. We hit this line right here as our rejection one or resistance one. And you can see that we had some pretty nice divergence that formed in regards to, we had a double top roughly in price, a little bit higher price, and we had divergence on the RSI as well as the CB index. We can flip it to a different time frame here and actually see it a little bit better. So you can see we got the divergence that formed between the higher high here, and it didn't quite get up. It was a couple bucks away, but we still got that move up, and then obviously a pretty hard rejection that came down. And with that move that came down, pretty impulsive. I was looking at a little bit more sideways correction here, potentially another leg up before we had a pretty hefty move to the downside, but obviously didn't quite get that high. Danny, yes, $1 is in the near future. 100x right now. Not financial advice. But obviously with this move, guys, if this pretty massive rejection, in my opinion, is going to be, the start of something, and this whole thing completely finished off. So let me actually get a clean chart here. All right, so ultimately what I was looking for on this move up, we got for the most part. And looking from a wave count structure, there's a couple things to where, what this could potentially be, and that's what I want to cover real quick. So for ETH, what I was looking at is this having it be the 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Pretty clean 5-wave move up. The fib extensions, matched up quite nicely for it to be a 3rd wave, and with an overextended 5th, which led this to be either potentially an ABC, which what we could be looking at right now, or we could be looking at a overall, this being a C wave altogether with a move down. So the option of this being an ABC is really going to be the best thing we have for a bull scenario. With this move, however, very strong and aggressive. That's where I want to look at in regards to possible continuation to make lower lows. So if we have this as an ABC, I'm going to take these off real quick. So we're going to be looking at, really we kind of came down to that 1.618, which is really the max that we want to go to as it being a C wave. So which would pretty much say that this thing is done, because even if you look at where the B wave went to, we had a perfect extension for an expanded flat for B wave. It hit the 1.382 for a B, and then also came down and we tagged the 1.618. You can also see how much the RSI just completely reset, and it's not really showing the best of my screen here, so I'm gonna have to adjust that. Let me see. Let's see if that does anything. All right, but you can see how much the RSI, has completely reset in regards to, even this 1 hour time frame, where we didn't exactly create a lower low from a candle close perspective, but the RSI is definitely lower. The CB index is for sure lower as well. It looks like that did help a little bit. Let's see. Let's try it that way. But you can see we do have some divergence here to get a little bit of a push up. Now, if you look at the 15-minute time frame and you look at some of these other indicators that we have, not much movement, but the CB index has completely, gone up and has gotten pretty heavy on the upside, and which means that really going to come back up. We're going to test this EMA, possibly come back down for another bottom, and then kick back up and do put a ABC potentially for just a regular flat down here for what I'm looking for. Now, if we do break this 224 on ETH, then that is our confirmation that we're dealing with something more aggressive to the downside and something more impulsive. It's the nice thing about the 1.618. It's the max extension that we can have for a C wave before we do something else. So, I mean, if we do break the 224, then we're dealing with something totally different, and we're going to look at something more geared towards a 5-wave structure to the downside. So I keep adjusting my screen here. So this would be our bull scenario. So A, B, C, this thing is done, and then we'll look for continuation to the upside, or the other option that we would be having is that, you know, this is either a complete start of something. So we'll take that guy off the table. And we'd move that. And the way that I would count it, let's try that again. So this right here would be our 1, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5. And basically we would have to have an overextended 5th within the 3rd right here. But right here, this does look pretty 3-wave, so I'm not a huge fan of it just finishing off right here. I would think we would need to do a little bit more correction and then potentially move down. Because if you go back out to the higher time frame, and what we have from an extension standpoint, right there. So we did tag the 1.382, and this does look very 3-wave-ish for a nice ABC structure. Boom, boom, boom. Ideally to be done, and then this potentially could be the start of something for a move down. But the invalidation of this being that C wave is the 224. So if we do break 224 on this, continuation leg down, so if we do get another move to the downside here and break that 224, that is basically our invalidation point, saying that we are dealing something more impulsive to the downside, and at which point I'd start be looking for lower targets. Because really the thing with this is on Bitcoin is it matches up quite nicely to have this up as a B wave, but on ETH it doesn't match from an Elliott wave perspective as a B. It comes up a little bit too high. So the 1.382 is the highest we can have as a B wave on this particular move, which means that, this here would really have to be its own move to really just finish off to have that move to the downside here. So ultimately what I'm looking for on ETH, guys, is to have some consolidation here, potentially another move up. That's going to be our bull case. If we do break the 224, then I'd be looking for much lower targets, as this potentially by itself could be a wave 1. And if it is, clear off some of these fibs, sloppy fibs, and I'll say that's the highest we get, where we come back and we retest that 200 EMA. And then we do start be looking for targets such as 188 and 170 on ETH here. So ultimately that's what I'm looking for, but it really comes down to this 224 mark if we do break this, as well as how we kick off, because we probably have a little bit of a correction here, a 3-way move, such as something like that, consolidate for a little bit just because we had a pretty massive move, so bounce around a little bit in this area. 3 wave, and that'll kind of be the deciding factor if we're going to continue downwards, or how high we're going to go up if we're going to get another leg up. But we'll want to look for something to come off impulsively from, again, a 5 wave move if we're going to get continuation to the upside, or if we're going to come off the C wave here and have a 5 wave move down. That's going to be our indication that this whole thing would be in itself a wave 1. Now if we look at Bitcoin, this is how it played out a little bit better in regards to it potentially just being a larger ABC wave. So you can see just from a fib level, it tagged the 1.382 quite nicely. Let's just actually go and label it. Now, if it is a C, what could our targets potentially be for the C wave? So it'd be looking at a max of 83.58, but would probably look at something more around the $8,600 mark. Just because that's where we had a double bottom before, and kind of how I said before, we can come back down and have an ABC. That'd be our bull count for it to take off again. But if we come back off with a 3-wave structure, we consolidate sideways, then in my opinion, that's going to just lead to further continuation to the downside. I don't necessarily, on Bitcoin, it's kind of hard to make a case of this being a move by itself, just because again, it's very 3-wave. I was trying to see if we can have something with an expanding flat scenario, but I'm just not seeing it. But if we keep this trend line here too, we could be looking at targets back around 91. Yeah, somewhere around the 91 is if we hold this. If we do lose the trend line, then we would probably come back up in a 3-wave motion and have another flat, and then that would give us another opportunity to start off impulsively moving back down to the downside. So ultimately, I would look for Bitcoin to come back down here, test this trend line around the $9,000 mark. If we break that, really 83 to 86 would be my next 2 targets here. And if we obviously move that, then we would probably come back up, test the trend line in a 3-wave motion. If it's not a 5-wave, it's 5-wave, then obviously that can kick us off, and we can get back up to that $11,600 mark that I was looking at before. But it's got to kick off in 5 waves. If we have a 3-wave, come back up, test the trend line, have another overall 3-wave motion, and potentially even do something like that here, try and get back up, and then that would give us an opportunity to kick off impulsively to have further continuation to the downside. Looking at just overall on the higher time frame targets on how some of these other indicators have really kind of kicked us off in regards to how this drop has made us look. On the CB index, you can really see that we're getting kind of squeezed between these 2 EMAs. We did touch the top of the volume band on the RSI, but if it's like we did break, actually. Yeah, we did break through that EMA. So that would, in my opinion, give us room to come back down, test the slow EMA here on the red, which would match up potentially with this trend line here, as well as the derivative oscillator losing momentum pointing to the downside on the 12-hour. 4-hour, it looks like complete trash. Heavy momentum going to the downside. Still outside the volume band on the 4-hour, and well below both of these EMAs here. So other indicators pointing, for continuation to the downside, which would match up for at least, coming back down, touching the trend line of 9,000. But based upon, the aggressiveness, we may see continuation downside and get back down towards the 83 mark that I was looking at. So all in all, let me try and catch up on a little bit of chat here. Danny, I'm looking for a little bit more data, because if you look at the 15 specifically here on bidding, we look like we're potentially looking to roll over right now. If we find support right here on the fast moving EMA, that can give us an opportunity to help right up, as well as on the CB index. If we come back down and tap that red line, that would give us an opportunity to come back up again. So I want a little bit more to fill out in regards. So I look for a three-wave move within this range here, at which point then I would look for potentially some divergence, which we already kind of got on the CB index, to really help move to the downside. If you look at the RSI and how much that's already come up just from this little move, we can kind of just bounce along this with a three-wave move, come back up, and then that would create some pretty heavy resistance and divergence to get back down to the downside. Let's see. No, the 256, that was on ETH. Let's see. Newton, thanks for joining. Good to see you. Danny, Tara, Crypto Machine, Amalia, Crypto Knight. Good to see you guys. Appreciate you guys joining in, but ultimately that's what I'm looking for. I just wanted to do a recap from the videos that I did yesterday, and ultimately some near-term targets, but I kind of want to see what this is going to look like, fill out for a little bit more. But ultimately, that's what I'm watching for. I'll keep you guys updated in the Discord for what I see, and hopefully we'll take advantage of some nice movements coming up, guys.